Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Worcester Township Board of Supervisors business meeting for June 19th, 2024. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? My name is Rick DeLello. I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Lou Betts, who is the vice chair. To my right is Steve Quigley, who is our third member. On the side table in the front, we have Wendy McKenna, who is our solicitor. We have John Everts, who is our township engineer. On the back table, we have Christian Jones, who is our assistant township manager, and Jay Finnegan, who is our interim township manager. First and foremost, does anybody have any informational items for the board this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to note two items: that this meeting is being recorded for future broadcast, and that the Board of Supervisors held an executive session on May 23rd, 2024 to discuss personnel matters.
Excellent. So Jay, I also see something listed here about Route 73 construction and traffic pattern under informational as well. Can you give us a quick snapshot of what that is?
Sure. Mike Nizik from Enbridge will be here to give the board a presentation. I also invited PSP, the school district, and the fire company because it's going to be a detour of traffic alignment, realignment on Route 73 to do some gas line work. And Mike's here and can give the township some information on it.
Just so I understand, Jay, where is that within where are we putting that within our agenda?
It's right. You can do it right now, right before public comment.
So open with that item and then to public comment. Fair enough. So if Mike is here, I'm going to ask him to come to the front table. Make sure we got a green glowing light there, Mike. And if you pull that mic in front of you, because we are recording and video recording, make sure you tell us who you are, where you're from, and then the floor is yours.
We're all good. Let me get my name. My name is Mike Snizik. I live in Sicklerville, New Jersey, which is just south of Philadelphia. Originally from Pittsburgh, and just recently moved out here. I used to manage from Penn State through Cleveland, Canton, and Akron, and I had the entire state of West Virginia. I'm now in charge, field-wise, from Reading, Pennsylvania to New Hope, from New Hope to Staten Island Sound, and from Staten Island Sound north to Stony Point. So I have all of North Jersey and Berks, Bucks, and Montgomery County for lands and right-of-way. I work in the anomaly maintenance group. What we do is, I'll give you a little background on Enbridge first. We are an interstate transfer company for natural gas. Our interstate transfer lines run from the Gulf of Mexico to Mountsville, West Virginia, and then from there they run across the state of Pennsylvania. They service the entirety of the East Coast. They come down from Halifax, or all the way to Halifax. The other set of lines that we have begin in Edmonton and run through the Dakotas, converge in the same area, and we provide natural gas for homes and businesses for the entirety of the East. Two of those lines just happen to run underneath Skip Pack. And we are governed by FERC, which is governed by the Department of Energy. So we're not PSE&G or JCP&L. They take gas from our lines. We provide those to all the suppliers and distributors throughout the East Coast. We have what's called anomaly maintenance. So we run tooling through our lines to make sure that they are safe in operation. We do this frequently. Whenever we run the tooling through there, and if the sensor equipment that we have senses something it maybe, kind of doesn't like perhaps a chip or a tiniest little coding issue, we can tell that. So what happens is it becomes marked, and then we will come over to that location. This is going to be, it's a PennDOT road here. So we're going to excavate, expose the pipe The pipe will be, the coating will be removed, then it will be sandblasted. X-ray teams will come in, certify what our sensory equipment saw from the inside. If it turns out to be nothing, we're going to recoat the pipe and then backfill, and then we'll be moving on our way. If when we do our X-ray inspection of the pipe there, it sees something that we don't like, then we're going to cut that section out. Another section will be ordered from South Plainfield. We'll drop it in place, re-weld it, recertify it, and then recoat it, and then move along our way. These two lines that we have up here, these are the two lines that extend from our main lines that come from New Hope and then go to Philadelphia. They're large, 26 inches in diameter, and they're very vital to the area. They provide gas to quite a few people. So we are going to excavate here and do that same process. The outage window that we're working on right now is September 14th. So whenever we talk about an outage window, we're going to need to shut the gas off at one location and then shut the gas off at another location, remove the gas from that section of pipeline so that if a cutout is necessary, then we'll be able to do so. But while the guys are going to be working on the pipe, there won't be any gas in there.
And who gets impacted by anybody that is downstream from that? What is?
No, because you have a second line there, plus we can reroute. So there won't be any loss of service
Okay,
to any residents or businesses or any of the local suppliers who buy from us. So we're just going to take that section from one end to another end and then take all the gas out of it. So
Okay.
plus we have a second line.
okay,
So that's anomaly maintenance. If we don't find anything, we'll recoat, backfill, and go along the way. So right now we have a permit that is in process with PennDOT. It's a PennDOT road. They're pretty specific as to what they look for. I've spent 4 visits out here now. People speed there. A lot, you know, they do. And they also make an unusual cut in using the Wench's Church driveway to go around each other before they turn off to the side road over there. So I can understand how dangerous it is and how, you know, how people are pretty aggressive there. So the traffic management plan that I have right now is, you know, in process with PennDOT. Whenever I get a more favorable word, you know what the PennDOT process is like. Once I submit, I have a 30-day time period for comments, and then they'll bring their comments back to us, and if we need to make any changes, we'll go from there. So, but I'm here today to explain what we're doing with the project, which I just did. Get the school involved. It's September 14th. There's going to be busing issues, which, you know, they're going to have to go around. That lane is going to be closed for the duration of the project. I'm going to need to leave a little space open there in the one driveway so parishioners and also drop-off can, because they have a daycare center there. It's going to impact the road traffic-wise pretty significantly.
so when you talk about September 14th, is it a singular day of chaos, or are there days leading in and days, what's the broader window that we're looking at here?
So September 14th is our outage window. That's when it begins. So that's when we would deem that the pipe's safe to work on. So we're going to muster into the bottom parking lot. I have a nice arrangement with the church. They've been very generous in letting us use that far parking area for us to do our staging. But the second that the outage window occurs, that's when the excavator is going to go out there and start. So we're going to have that road closed off with traffic management on either side, like street lights, to be able to control the flow of traffic prior to the excavator. So it'll be that day. So that'll be.
And then what happens if you encounter any kind of an issue? Is it still resolvable within that same day, or does it roll forward to?
We're going to be operating there for at a minimum of 20 days.
Okay,
And then if, you know, you get bad weather, if you get, you know, those kind of things that could affect it, it might go as long as an extra 7 days after that. But it's going to be a minimum of 20 days.
okay. So the 14th is the starting point of the invasiveness, and it's anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks is what you're anticipating.
Yep. We could go in there and find nothing. We could go in there and find that both sections need cut out. But it generally takes us about 4 days in total to be able to get the trench boxes set, to get the excavation, to get all the soil removed. And then so we can get down to where the pipe is. It generally takes about 2 full days to get the coating off and get the sandblasting done
Okay.
before we can get the X-ray teams in there to do their work.
Outside of the inconvenience component, is there any safety concern that we should be communicating to residents about this?
We're not exposing hazardous materials. The only thing that's hazardous on our job sites that we have, we like to say is, there's vehicles that run on diesel fuel, and then we have the excavators, the bobcats and everything, they use hydraulic fluids. So we're mindful of spills as far as that goes. But other than that, it's a very simple process of, we have to take the asphalt out. We'll bring a hydrovac truck in, remove all of the dirt and rocks that are around the pipes. Those are going to be jackhammering most likely, because we don't know what the pipes were set on whenever they were installed. So sometimes there's a lot of rock underneath them. Sometimes they backfilled with rocks. So it can be noisy while that process is going on. But
Right.
we're going to set trench boxes in there to protect our guys.
Okay. Questions from either side, guys? I mean, questions from,
Yeah.
You got a fun job.
Well, Jay and Christian we have met us over there already. We had a good meeting. And I've gotten some nice email conversations going with the school districts. They've got some real concerns about, you've got a brand new school year, you've got brand new bus drivers, they're getting used to their routes.
right,
And here we're gonna close one lane of a very, very busy road. So
So the red lines, they're the actual, that red line, that's the line, that's your gas
those are our
line.
2 gas lines,
And
correct?
they look like whoever laid it out kind of went, I don't know, wherever they want, I guess, back in the day. And they're how old, do you know?
Depending on, well, see,
Are they bad? That's my question is, how do you know they're bad? You don't. You just random checking? Because
no. We run tooling through there. And they're large size sensory equipments, and they have sonic and X-ray that go in, and we pull them through. And that's, part of routine maintenance we do. And
if you see something is my question.
if it sees something it doesn't like, it could be a dent, could be a tiny little chip,
It did see something or you wouldn't be here. That's my
or I
question.
wouldn't be here. So you don't get fully a better picture on it until you actually get completely excavated.
Right.
You get the coating off of it, get the
Yep.
epoxy off of it, and then you re-sandblast it, and then you have a smooth surface to which you can X-ray.
I'm sure you're making us all aware that you do this every day. I'm sure you're very, very good at what you do. We have a fire department reps here too, so I'm sure, and we will coordinate with everybody that's very aware of it, because if there is an accident,
Yep.
broken gas line, I mean, you got to evacuate and do a lot of neat safety things, so.
Yeah, most people, or their major concern is gonna be that they've got access if you have an emergency on either side.
Yes.
So they're gonna need to be able to get their vehicles
Get out.
area quickly, and there's gonna be a backup there. But when you get a project like this, as soon as it kind of soaks in a little bit, it takes a couple days, and then the residents are gonna start to figure it out that we're not gonna go near that area, we're gonna have to go around in different ways, to try and avoid it, to save time, so.
And it's protected 24 hours a day while you're doing start to finish. There's no way you could do this sooner, like in the summer, and avoid the school rush.
We go by what the outage windows
Yeah, I
go,
get it.
so they are successive. And whenever we go to set a time period in a specific area, there's really no turning back as far as that goes, because you have to remove all of the gas from one side and all of the gas from the other. In case it comes down to it, when we do a cutout, you cannot have a torch
No.
in the same place as a 26-inch diameter gas line. You just can't.
And no
So-
smoking zone, I'm sure.
and there's-
No,
So-
it's very educational. I think it's get in, get it fixed, get out.
That's what we do. So,
Okay.
you guys have any other questions?
excuse me,
Go ahead.
board, not them. You're directing to the board. We'll advise if they
I guess
need.
my first question will be, where are you going? I mean, you just picked this section out, it's outlined. Where do you continue the rest of the work? Is there any place else in the township where this work's going to continue?
No. These are there's only 2 locations. that we've ran tooling through and tested, in in a spot where we would need to be investigated. So as of right now, these are the only two.
Right. Now, when you talk about a one-lane road, are you determining it's going to go east, west? Which way are you going to close?
We're going to close the lane that touches the church here, not on the opposite side of the street. So it's going to be closed above there, and it's going to be closed below there.
So which way will the traffic have access to the road?
Well,
Are you going to have a guy out there alternating?
there'll be like stoplights installed on either end, so that will provide red lights and green lights, and
So
then
the traffic can go through on both ways, but just using one lane,
traffic will be limited to one lane.
one lane.
Because this full lane over here, where the anomalies are located, we're gonna have to excavate out probably 25 feet in one direction and another 10 feet wide. So that whole of that road in two locations at the same time are gonna be opened up.
This isn't the first job you had, so everyone probably tells you the same thing. That's a very, very busy road.
It is.
And it's going to create a lot of inconvenience, either from the firefighters, from the school buses, but you've dealt with this problem before. And, yeah. Did you get the age? Do you know when it was, the gas line was put in originally?
Well, certain sections of pipe have different ages. I mean, I can't, I don't know that number offhand, but how long or how old that one's been, but they vary. I'm doing a dig right now. It's very similar to this one that's over just north of Rutgers, and it was a wartime easement. So that one pipe was put in the 40s, the other one was put in the 70s, and we're working on the pipe right now that was put in the 70s. So.
Okay. What if we say no, we don't want to do it?
No one says no.
I mean,
Fixing a gas line.
I'm asking the question on behalf of the public. The public wants to know, do you really have to do it?
Well, we are governed by FERC, so we're governed by the Department of Energy. Department of Energy has standards that they ask us to abide by, and safety and tooling runs for us is part of that. So they govern us with the amount of safety or of testing that we have to do, and we find something, we go dig it up and see what it is.
I think in the past, the gas lines have had a terrible reputation in our neighboring communities when they put the lines in. This isn't putting a new line in, it's just
No.
reconditioning the old lines,
Well, I mean, I'll use the Easton Avenue in north of Rutgers dig that I have as an example. So I have 3 digs in one yard in one property right now. Of the 3 digs, 2 of them turned out to be nothing. The dig in the middle, we have to cut a section out. So the tooling saw what it saw, and 2 of them tested fine, and the one in the middle, it has to go. So it's good that we caught it.
When do you figure that PennDOT's going to give you an update on the traffic recommendation plan at this
So,
point?
We submitted, I think 3 weeks ago. So they have 30 days till we come back with comments. So I would say probably within the next 10 days, I'll see something.
Other than information, is there anything you specifically need from our township, other than just open lines of communication?
Everybody's been answering emails quickly. Everybody has good questions. So I'm going to be your contact on this project for the field side. And,
Steve, I apologize, I cut you. I don't know if you had any more questions.
Yeah, one other question from the safety perspective, the ambulances have the thing that flick the traffic light.
Yep.
Is there something available to the fire companies and ambulances that they can change the traffic light,
So-
make it more accessible for them, rather than going, once again, a lot of country roads here for those fire companies or first responders to weave in and out of those roads with these big trucks?
So there will be actuators on both sides. So I'll coordinate with them to make sure that we're both, so that they work and they're available.
It's available to the fire company. Okay.
Yeah, we don't, if the guys are coming this way or this way, and I imagine that road is very busy, fire department's close, that they're gonna need to have access to that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else for you? I mean,
This is what he does. He's making us aware of the situation, and he's going to work with our
Yep.
fire department, and the ambulance and all that. So good luck with that. I hope it works out
Thank you.
fast. Get it in.
Appreciate it. We look forward always to safe projects.
Yeah.
We look forward to once we excavate and find nothing. and then can move on.
Yeah.
So,
Good luck.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay. So next item on our agenda is in essence the first item on our agenda, which is public comment. Thank you for everybody's patience while we kind of work to this moment when Mike sort of vacates the area. If anybody has any public comment they would wish to make before the board, now would be the time. Ma'am, I'm going to give you first opportunity to come since you sat through our riveting work session, and then I know Gary wants to talk, and then we'll get anybody else who wants to share. So process is, I saw you signed in when you came in, which is fine. Make sure you pull the mic close to you.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, and then the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Doris Dixon. I live on Bustard Road. I've been here for 34 years, and actually I should have come to one of these much earlier, just to see what it's like, because I've never been here. The reason I'm here one comment I wanted to make about the fire department, just a suggestion. Once you have the legal aspects covered, was my thought. Why not give them the opportunity to do a dry run? But he did mention that they were going to hold some kind of what do you call it? A run at that location, just to see what it actually does, how it would affect the area once, if they do the studies out there, if they do the fire out there. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
So potentially, the question, nothing's there yet. So there would be we'd have to give some thought to how we would even potentially do that. But there's steps to think of, and certainly getting them sort of feet on the ground, so to speak, certainly would make some sense. So,
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, well, now to mine. I'm here because of a dispute with my neighbor.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of at a stop because I don't know where else to turn. I've gone to the township building. I'm not getting anywhere. They don't have any information. They don't give any information. Even if I wanted a zoning book and a zoning map, and only to be told it's on the computer. We don't have a book. I could buy a book, but they wouldn't tell me when I can actually physically get one. And I don't want to look at a computer. I don't want to do this and this and this. I like hands-on. I like paper in my hand, and it's not available. I don't want to click. It's not me. So the issue I'm running into is my neighbor started a doggy daycare and a boarding some time ago already now. I have 4 dogs, so when all of a sudden he has 7 big dogs in his yard that don't really belong there, that he's boarding and getting money for, they're running up against my fence. My dogs are running the fence. They're barking. My fence consists of solid wood, 6 feet, and then I bought, 2 really good dog kennels, and I put them up in the back so they can always look into the woods. I didn't want them to be in a box. So that's where they lay back there. That's what they've been used to. Now, all of a sudden, I get these new animals in, and it's a race. They don't know each other. This is the issue. So at one point, I said, here, let's try to work with these animals. Let's get this done. Well, didn't work out real well. Ongoing issue again. He claimed my dog, nipped one of the other dogs. I said, what's his nose doing in my yard, But bottom line, what it comes down to is he didn't have a desire to clear this whole thing. And when something came up again, I said, you know what, now I think it's time you put up your own fence just to close it off, so those dogs could not stick their noses in my fence and there would be another issue. And what he did then is kind of ironic. He put up a whole fence, and in addition, he put up a mesh. So now when I'm looking, where did I put it? Can I give this to you? So
You're welcome to share with us anything you want.
Absolutely. But I'm
That's
gonna have to
fine.
come up there. This is what I'm looking at, looking out of my window, out of my kitchen window. And he proceeded to pull that fence along the whole line from all the way to, I can't even see the road anymore, okay? This is not acceptable. I'm not a pheasant. I'm not living in a bird cage. It's this here. It's the whole bit running all the way through. And what it is, he knows I like the woods, I like it also. He's closing me off totally now. Look at this. And in addition, he's laying some kind of either electric, some kind of lines, front to back. Oh, he put a container box up right behind my fence now. I used to have a gate that I could walk back in his woods. Okay, so now he put a container right there. Here's the neighbor kid helping him on top of the container. I wasn't asked if he could put a container there. It's right there. Here's the container. Here's the view from my second story.
Okay.
This really bugs me, that he's got the audacity to lay some kind of electrical lines or lines
Okay.
in the fence.
So are these copies for us, or do you want us,
You can have those.
because I know you've done some writing on these, and I want to make sure I don't want to take your only copies of anything you have.
Okay, I can send them out again if I need them, but
Okay.
I know what it looks like. I lived it. So this, as far as I'm concerned, is not
Okay.
acceptable. There's no need for me to talk to him anymore because I'm running against the wall.
Right.
And
He's
again,
not generating electric from this, is he? Is he generating electric?
I'm assuming
Solar, is it for solar power?
that I don't know. But I know, to me, it looks like under the one, under the back corner, is it this one? No, but that gives you the whole run in between. But it goes underneath at the end, so I'm assuming that it goes right into that container box. So the container box is way too close to my fence.
Never seen anything.
Well, I'm not gonna climb over there and look, you know. But that's why I'm bringing it up here, because like I said, there's no
Okay.
speaking with him anymore at this point, and I just think it's
Okay.
horrific that he does.
So I'm going to ask you if you can go back in behind there.
Oh, I got more. I got more. So that's one issue. The other issue is I literally live. So with that, it's the height. I need to know height information. What is he allowed to do? As far as I'm concerned, he's not allowed to do that. And like I said, I don't want to live like that. The other thing then is it goes beyond. We've got issues with him planting trees out front. He plants trees. I live right in that corner on Buster Road, that dangerous corner where I have to park my box truck in backwards. I have to wait. I pull over. I trek back and forth so I can pull out and back in because I'll never be able to back my truck out.
Okay.
Another vehicle. So here, again, I can show you.
So I do want to be conscious of the fact that you're entitled to 5 minutes. We've kind of gotten right up on the boundary of that, but that's fine.
This is what it looks like. I literally, that's out of the car, I need to be able to look through to see that dip. That's where Buster, the old
Yep.
Buster's house, okay? So now what he just did, he planted trees again. He is taking away that site, going down there. And he owns the building on the other side too, and he's already done this here.
So are these copies for us again? That's okay. So there's a couple of things, Joyce. Sure, absolutely.
And so, to me, my key points were the visual obstructions.
Yep.
It's not okay. Somebody's going to get killed. We got hit once already by pulling out a couple of years ago. So the fence, the doggy daycare, I need to know what the rules are because I was told, they weren't giving me any rules. I said, I need to know, is he allowed to do this? He's running a business out of a private property.
Yep.
He's, the whole thing. Township building, I couldn't get any information other than questions because I said, if you can't give me info, then what do I need to do if I want to run a doggy daycare? And all I was getting was questions. They were diluting me, pushing me away.
Sure.
And then the last thing that I'm here for is this tree is between our property. Once again, I guess his father planted it. That's what I was always told. It's right there. I've been cleaning up the mess from this tree for 34 years. And it's the leaves, and there's no light and on my side of the house. Those dingleberries that come off for allergies, all this stuff. And now only to find out I've been asking him for years to clean up and cut the branches back. It's overhanging where my stovepipe is.
Yep.
Nothing happens. Now, he had somebody come out to cut his side, and he leaves my side. What kind of rights do I have?
So it's a couple things. Let me start by saying I don't have all your answers at this moment, Joyce. Okay, you've presented a lot of information for us. I would ask for the courtesy that we have a chance to review with the township
Okay.
in terms of, so there are certainly things that every resident is entitled to do with his or her property. And I don't know specifically to the granularity of what somebody can and can't do because it varies different spots in the township. It varies by zoning district, but there are things that residents are allowed to do with their individual properties. If he's allowed to do certain things, even if you don't like them, he's still allowed to do them in certain situations. If he's not allowed to, then there's a process that we need to go through from a township standpoint in terms of researching, and there's steps we need to take. And there's mechanics to do that, to find out ultimately what is or isn't allowed, and then what might be the appropriate resolution if there is one.
Okay.
The part we don't get involved with is if ultimately we say he's allowed to do X and you don't like X, we're not the arbitrator of that. Or conversely, if you have something on your property that he doesn't like and you're allowed to do that, we have to kind of stay outside of that, piece of it, but we can help sort of determine what the mechanics of what's allowed or not allowed. And I don't want to give you an answer now and not really I'm not going to say we can do X or Y, because I'm not sure ultimately. But certainly you've shared pictures and information that we can at least then say, okay, where are the lines and boundaries in this situation, and is there a way that we can sort of help mitigate and resolve if possible. In terms of what he may or may not be doing at his particular property, I can't speak to that at this point, and there may be perfectly allowable things he's doing with that, and I just don't know. So I don't want to tell you yes or no, but certainly I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you sharing. What will happen from here, if we can make sure, do we have Joyce's information at the township? If you've contacted,
I don't, neither Jay or I spoke with Joyce.
that's fine. So the only thing I would ask, Joyce, is if you could leave a phone number
Right here? Yeah.
yeah. So that we have an opportunity, if we have questions, that we can communicate with you in terms of clarifying. And
Okay.
some of this might have predated the individuals that are here. As Jay's the interim township manager, we had somebody previously there. So some of that information may have been provided previously and hasn't found its way to all the right people. So we'll sort of go back and dig into the pieces and components and see sort of what we could do. We'll communicate with you. I don't know how quickly, it isn't one call and everything's done. I mean, it usually takes a little time to work through that, but we'll communicate as well as we can so we know sort of where things stand. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
No, because there's a lot of issues and a lot of, some of it is safety, some of it is just guidelines, rules, regulations, but I didn't know where else to turn, so.
Fair enough.
And just one question. You mentioned the number of years you've lived there, and you said something about his father planted the tree.
Yeah.
Were they there before you moved there? How long have they lived in that house?
It was there before I moved there.
So they were there.
Yeah, but it infringed, it's grown over now, and it's the height, it's the overhang. The tree has never been taken care of. And I actually have the same type of tree coming from the other side. My house, they're doing this on my house. My house is covered in mold now. When we have a bad storm, I sleep downstairs. I'm afraid to sleep upstairs because I have branches come down that are bigger than my arm at times, Nobody maintains trees.
Trees are a problem, and you probably know if the tree falls down, whose problem that is.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem.
Yeah.
He took care of his side now, but he wouldn't take care of the other side. Why? Vindictive at this point, so, oh well, but that's not.
Thank you, Joyce. We appreciate your comments. So Gary, you're up, and then anybody else who has public comment, and we'll proceed from there.
Let me take a minute to sign in here. So my name is Gary Volpe. I live in Tillmanson Township. My wife and I own a building at 3238 West Germantown Pike in Worcester Township. It is zoned agricultural, and in 2020, by special exception, we were approved to knock down the old lumber yard and build a non-conforming office warehouse for Volpe Roofing. We outgrew the warehouse part. In 2014, we moved out, but we kept the offices operational upstairs. By special exception, in 2015, the zoning board approved the batter's box. The batter's box counseled up to 20 kids on baseball skills. After 9 years, that lease ended, which was in May of this year. A new lease was signed with Integrate for Good. Integrate for Good will provide leadership and employee skills to individuals with disabilities. These individuals would be dropped off and picked up daily, and there would be no outside activities. We applied to Worcester Township for a UNO, and response we got from the township manager, and I'll read this, but I want to give you a copy of the letter. So it says, this is from John Finnegan Jr. UNO permit is denied for the following reason. The special need camp school development center use is permitted in agricultural zoning district, requires to be situated on tracts of 60 acres or more with frontage on at least 2 public roads. The property in question does not meet this criteria set forth in section and the zoning ordinance numbers. We were told to appeal to the zoning hearing board on July 16th, which I see has been changed to the 24th, if we disagree. Integrate for Good is not a special needs camp, school, or developmental center. And you only have 8 participants and 4 staff. The executive director and founder, Bev Weinberg, is here if you have additional questions about the organization. Integrate for Good has received a federal grant through Montgomery County and must be operational in this space by July 1st to prevent funds from being disrupted or possibly lost. We feel Integrate for Good's use is similar or very close to the same as the batter's box in regards to counseling of individuals, and will actually, this use will actually reduce the impact on the property. Given this similar use, it is my request to have the supervisors reverse the township manager's determination, prevent a costly zoning hearing meeting on this matter, and allow Integrate for Good to occupy the building under the previous batter's box special exception beginning July 1st. Thank you for your consideration.
Chairman, if I could.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to,
I'm happy to do that because I've had some communication with both Jay and Christian
sure.
regarding this matter correspondence regarding this matter, and I've reviewed the prior zoning decisions regarding this matter.
Okay.
So the special exception that was granted for the batter's box in 2015 is specific to that use. The batter's box is a non-conforming use that was permitted by special exception. Pursuant to your zoning ordinance, any change of that non-conforming use, a property owner or applicant is required to apply to the zoning hearing board for a special exception. That is what was communicated to the property owner, and I believe also perhaps to the representative of Integrate for Good.
Good.
The Board of Supervisors does not have the authority to overturn the decision of the zoning officer. That is just simply not within the Board of Supervisors' purview. The zoning officer interprets the zoning ordinance. The zoning officer made a determination here, and the proper avenue is for the applicant to file for a special exception. I'm also aware that they have in fact obtained an attorney, and I understand that they are in the process of preparing that application to the zoning hearing board. I do not know if it has been submitted. While it perhaps is unfortunate that there may be some deadlines that these folks are up against, That's not something this board can make any exception for. There is a process, they've been advised of the process, and that's the route that should be taken.
Okay.
So I would say still, the uses are so similar.
I'm going to just interrupt because this board does not have the authority to make any determination with regard to whether or not those uses are similar. That is the case that needs to be made to the zoning hearing board for a special exception. And if that's the case, and it's very well possible that that is the case, then the zoning hearing board would be the one to make that determination and grant a special exception. I understand you did consult with an attorney, so I'm sure your attorney advised you that a special exception is not a heavy burden to meet, but it is a requirement of the township zoning ordinance.
Okay, well, I'm still going to say, because I've got the floor here, it's just that it is a similar use, and it is just a determination of how the organization is viewed. And if it's viewed the same as the batter's box, I'm saying that the batter's box special exception should be what we should go on. Also, and the reason we went to the attorney is because of the time issue. We didn't want to miss the July date. So I have already spent thousands of dollars on the attorney and putting in for an application for the zoning board, depending on what the outcome was here tonight.
No, I appreciate that, and I apologize. We're not choosing not to do something that we can. We simply don't have the authority to even, we can't say yes or no to you. I couldn't say, no, I think it's the same or different. Steve could feel the same way, Lou could feel the same way. That's where we get separated from zoning matters. We're not allowed to do that. I mean, as the solicitor has shared, unfortunately, we can't rule on that. Like, we can't make a say, well, you know what, Wendy, I'm not gonna, we can't bypass that. I apologize. Ultimately, we would hope you would be successful in any sort of zoning endeavor with the zoning hearing board, but ultimately, we don't have a means to avoid that.
Rick, I guess my question is looking at, and once again, I picture a school to be Methacton or Worcester Elementary School. I trying to figure out how many students are involved. Are these students? Is it a camp or what is it a counseling service?
They are students of a school, but this is not a school. This is how the zoning officer is viewing it. He's viewing it as a school. It is not a school. They are students in Methacton, or they could be, North Penn, whatever, but there are no particular students. This is just very similar to the use of the batter's box.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Gary.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing, Steve.
yeah.
I'm familiar with the batter's box. When my sons were in Little League, Gary, I mean, at least once or twice, they went through various, so I'm familiar with that. But ultimately, when that determination got made, and that's typically outside of our board, they don't, we can't sort of say, well, we're just going to look the other way and we're going to say it's fine. Like, ultimately, we don't have the authority to do that. But I understand what you're saying, Steve.
I guess my question, Rick, is say Mr. Volpe didn't come into the township and he just rents it out to, I guess I'm trying to figure out where and I guess I always go back to my experiences in the township. When they told me I wanted to do something and they wanted a list of what I wanted to sell, if I'm selling bubble gum, if I'm selling this or that, it's, you're running a business. But, the minutia sometimes, I wonder, with government, and we're part of it, that the hangups, and certainly my feelings on government, they put their fingers in too many things sometimes, and I guess my question is, if Mr. Volpe didn't come to the township and just rented his business space out, well, the township would never know it. So,
Well, I'll ask.
I mean, do we go to all the tenants in the township?
I believe that there were actually, there was a building permit applied for because there was renovations that were necessary. So there was in fact a change, and that's what alerted to the township to the fact that there is a change in use here. And so frankly, what would occur is that a potential for a notice of violation would be what the next step could be from the township upon an individual making, making a change of a use without securing the proper permits.
So if an insurance agency is running an insurance agency out of it, and he decides to change it from an insurance agency to selling beach balls,
That would
it-
be a change in use.
there has to go back and get a change in the
That's right.
zoning for
But
that.
Special, what you need to remember is that this property isn't zoned for office. It isn't zoned for the batter's box. So on 2 occasions, they had to get zoning relief.
It's not zoned for offices, you said?
No, it is not.
I thought they were running a roofing business out of the property.
They've obtained zoning relief to do that. So that was not a permitted use. That was approved by a zoning decision that was specific to that use. And then the batter's box, again, was specific to that use. This isn't a district where office is permitted. So I think that's the difference here.
Well, we've had offices there for 21 years. That was approved by the zoning board back then.
Right, what she's saying is that you received a zoning relief so that you could have offices there ultimately. Some zoning districts would allow for particular uses that are just written into the zoning district. And in your particular case, they weren't, and you did get the appropriate relief previously, but that relief doesn't carry to other things. And that's why you had to, and when you had in 2015, when you had the special exception for the batter's box, it was aligned very specifically, and it sounds like what happened here, to your point, Steve, in theory, somebody could make a change, and we wouldn't know. I mean, we're not going out, but ultimately, in this case, what happened was that there were permits that were required for changes that were being made to the.
So let me retract my beach ball analogy. The insurance company's there, and he decides he's going to run out to an accounting company, an accounting firm, office to office. You need a zoning change for that?
It would be up to the zoning officer to make that determination.
So every time there's a change with a business in Worcester Township, if someone, the Gambone who owns the shopping center down there, they have a insurance company and it changes to an accounting company, they have to go, I never remember all these changes in the township coming before the zoning hearing board.
They probably did not. If it's a change in use permit and it's determined that it is in fact a permitted use or it's an office use, then they most probably wouldn't have gone to the zoning hearing board. So, but the difference here is that an office is not a batter's box, and the batter's box relief was specific. You need to recall this isn't in a commercial district, it would be different. This isn't the commercial district. And the use that is being requested here, which sounds like it's a wonderful use, is simply not the batter's box. It's just really a matter of time here, but again, this board isn't the one who makes these interpretations or these determinations. It's for your staff, and then it's for the zoning hearing board.
So can I ask you a question, Wendy? Is the zoning officer able to make a change before July 1st?
No.
So even though he has done
Your
what said what he
remedy
said?
was to file your appeal to the zoning hearing board. That's the next step. That is the procedure. And that is, I'm sure your attorney has advised you, that is the path that you need to follow to get the approval for your tenant.
I have a question. Are you on the July agenda for the zoning, yes or no?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure.
So,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is he on the agenda for the zoning board for July? Or you need this done by July?
That's up to,
Well, technically, with the grant that they got, it should be operational by July 1st. What I put in the zoning board through the attorney just in case
Okay, so you're
it
not,
didn't go my way here.
you're not on the June agenda is what you're stating then?
They didn't make the deadline for the June agenda, but we did receive it in time for the July zoning hearing board meeting.
And you file an extension for your grant or whatever, noting that there's a lot of technobabble in the way here.
The executive director would have to ask that. I don't know.
So I see your hand up. So if you want to come forward just so that you can answer that question, that would be fine.
Trying to help you, Gary. I'm just trying to get the legal crap done so we can.
Nice to be here. I'm Dr. Bev Weinberg. I'm the founder and executive director.
One more sec, hold on, slow down. I don't hear as well as I used to, and I never
Okay, I'm sorry.
heard particularly well. So I'm
I'm
going to ask you
Dr.
if you can pull the mic closer to you. Okay, now, that's,
Sign in.
just, yeah, if you don't mind. Okay, so just who you are, and then if you could share, Mr. Betts, Supervisor Betts had a question, and we just want to understand more fully. So,
I'm Dr. Bev Weinberg, and I'm the founder and executive director of Integrate for Good.
So my question is, to get through this, can he file for an extension to not be, he's obviously he's not going to be on the June zoning. So he could be on the July zoning, and if granted, then I think everything kind of works better.
Right, and the reason why that won't work for us is because we received federal funding, ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funding, that was distributed through Montgomery County. And we were awarded this funding to provide federally mandated services to people with disabilities. An ordinance was brought to our attention that someone providing services to people with disabilities needs to be on 60 acres of land, which isn't fair.
No. I understand your point.
Right, so we're not a school, we're not a camp, and we're not a development center. And those are the three that were identified in this ordinance that would apply. And so the reason we were denied is specifically because we're providing services to people with disabilities.
Like physical therapy, mental therapy.
I'm an occupational therapist by
Okay.
training, but the services they're receiving are federally mandated to begin July 1.
I understand. I'm just trying to help this, but obviously it's a short notice and we're not getting on the June zoning. If they were to grant it, that would work well. Unfortunately, I don't know how to expedite that because we're coming to the board and this is June. So,
we don't have a path to circumvent the calendar. I mean, is what, so we're not empowered that we can say, we don't like the answer you got, we're going to give you a better answer. Even if we don't have that authority to do
My
that.
concern was that an ordinance was applied to us erroneously because we're not a school, we're not a camp, and we're not a development center. It's not applicable to what we do.
I understand what you're saying, but I can't simply, that determination was already made. And we can't just, to Gary's question, we can't say, well, I've rethought it and I just change it. That just isn't how, the government works on that particular item. I
understand
apologize.
It is going to bring in other legal action, unfortunately, because it's in violation of the rights of people with disabilities to receive federally mandated services. And I just didn't want Worcester to be involved in that over something that's just not applicable to our use. So I just thought we could find a way to resolve it. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
I have a lot of questions, I guess, but I guess being a supervisor, I can't ask the questions before the zoning hearing board, but, we're elected by the people to make certain decisions, but I just don't like the way it's going, so, and I have to agree with Lady, I picture a school, you have recess, you have playground, you have hopscotch, you have games and toys out there. This is not a school, it's a counseling center for handicapped children. And we bent over backwards for the variety club and granted them a lot of stuff, but,
I have one more question.
I guess not only why I sit up here if I can't make any kind of decisions. Other people make the decisions for me, so I don't really like that, but
Has there ever been a case where we can special exception fast forward to the zoning board for this month, or are we not even able to do that? Could we investigate that? And I think, based on the use, I think there's a lot of, I think because the property isn't zoned a certain way that you have to follow a different set of rules, but I'm trying, yeah, I'm trying, but I mean,
And I would have no problem going to the zoning hearing board if we could get it into the June meeting, but I think we tried that. We were 4 days short of the advertising
Mr.
requirement.
Chairman, it will not make the MPC deadlines for advertising. And I can tell you honestly, this was investigated by multiple people,
yeah.
and their website, the wording on their website maps directly with the way this township ordinances are written, which requires them to get a special exception at the zoning hearing board.
They're saying it's a school, you're not saying it's a school, so I can't be a judge in this matter. As I was instructed by council, once they make a decision, I can't do anything, I'm told I can't do anything about it, so.
Okay. I think
I apologize, Gary.
we got it. It is what it is.
Right.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Who's banging?
Okay, folks. So first and foremost, does anybody else have any public comment for the board this evening before we proceed forward with any other items? Okay, seeing none, I'll move forward. We'll start with official action items. First thing up is our consent agenda. First and foremost, does anybody wish to remove any items from tonight's consent agenda?
I'd like to make a comment before we go that far, and I usually get a check register on the payment of the bills of the township. I don't have one. Usually that's in this folder. I did meet with you and we did go over some of them, but I don't have a check register, so it's hard to vote on something I don't have in front of me.
That's weird. Is it there?
It's usually in this inside folder. For the past 3 years, I've had a check register, so.
It's the pro forma.
Did I say what?
It's called a pro forma, and you're right.
It's a check, you call whatever.
Whatever. I know. You were in the township office with me today signing all the checks.
And real quick before we go anywhere.
I got you.
You tell me when
It's right here.
What tab?
D.
this,
It's in what?
Tab D.
It's in tab D.
not this, but on what?
We had,
We gotta identify some things, but
Tab D after the minutes.
it's in there.
Yes, sir.
It's in the,
here we go.
oh, you got one in the back?
It's in tab D, behind the minutes.
All right, so now I got what I got. Thank you. All right. So based on what I've observed, yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the work session minutes I reviewed, the business meeting minutes, May 15 I reviewed, treasurer's report, other monthly reports, and the bill payment for May of 24.
That's gonna be the amount of $415,000.
$415,934.16.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, next up, we're going to have a motion to authorize the township solicitor to prepare a resolution approving the 1543 Trooper Road lot line change with the condition that no prior deed restrictions are being broken. So is this you, John, or is this Wendy, or is it both of you?
This is actually a minor subdivision, and the applicant's here to discuss if we want to go through it. project involves a lot line adjustment for 3 lots. Just trying to give a little background on why we get settled here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michael Baginski. I'm a project manager with Robert E. Blue Consulting Engineers. We are the engineer working on this subdivision in question. And we are here on behalf of the applicant tonight. Christian, if you could flip to plan sheet number 4, please. It should be the last page.
This one right here.
Yes, I believe so. Before you this evening is a two-step process to consolidate 2 parcels and then perform a lot line change between a third parcel and the 2 consolidated lots. Now, the purpose of this is twofold. One, first and foremost, there's an existing driveway that crosses onto lot number 2 in order to reach the larger lot number 1, which is the 51.3 acre property owned by Whitetail Farm LLC. Lots number 2 and 3 are owned by Mr. and Mrs. Posen. As it stands, lot number 2 is non-conforming. It does not meet the lot width and lot size criteria of the agricultural district that they are in. Lot number 3 is conforming. So by consolidating lot number 2 and lot number 3, you're going to create a conforming lot. And then the step 2 would be the lot line change between lot number 1 and that consolidated parcel to get the existing driveway on the correct property that it serves. And then you wind up with 2 conforming lots at that point. That's really the brief synopsis of why this is before you and what is proposed. At this point, we have a clean review letter from CKS engineers. We are requesting 1 waiver for the plan scale. Our plans were prepared at a scale of 1 inch is 120 feet, where a maximum scale of 1 inch is 100 feet is permitted. The reason for that is simply so that we can fit the entire property on 1 plan sheet and not have to use an overall sheet with match lines and have that be confusing and hard to follow. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it and go through in more detail if there's anything else you'd like to know.
Sure. So I want to bring you back to one point. It sounded like what you were saying, and I want to make sure I heard correctly, is this is a process that is looking to bring 2 lots into compliance. So there's 3 lots presently. We're shrinking that to 2 so that both would be in compliance as opposed to having 1 in compliance and others not in compliance. Is that what I heard?
Correct. So there's 3 different lots. Lot 1 is owned by Whitetail Farm LLC, and lot 2 and 3 are owned by Mr. and Mrs. Posen. So lot number 2, which is just under 1 acre, does not meet the zoning criteria for the agricultural district. Lot number 3 does. So by consolidating those 2 lots, they end up with a single lot that is then conforming.
So who are we doing, which property owner are we doing this for then? Or does that,
So the ultimate goal from this first submission was to put the existing driveway for the larger lot, the Whitetail Farms, onto their existing lot. So
onto the Whitetail lot?
yes, right now their driveway is on Mr. and Mrs. Posen lot.
Okay.
And so there's no easement that I'm aware of that's currently there. So the proposal originally was to a lot line adjustment to get the driveway for the Whitetail Farms onto their lot. When that was done, it wouldn't, the 2 Posen lots would not be conformity to the zoning. So our suggestion was to, what was proposed, to combine the 2 lots, and then the 2 front lots would be conforming to the zoning ordinance, and then the driveway for the Whitetail Farms would be on their property.
So I guess, maybe this is a question for you, Wendy. Are we forcing a resident to make some change they necessarily, because it's 2 different owners here, right?
Come in jointly. This would be a joint.
They're all in, like, this is not just a Whitetail application. This is sort of a combined application?
That's correct.
Am I-
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Yes, my understanding is that both parties are, agreeable to the proposal.
okay.
Yes.
Got it. So this isn't Whitetail saying, I want to do something at somebody, or conversely, the Posen saying, I want to do, this is both sides saying, this is the end game we want, and then they're asking for us to
Correct, and a piece of what is currently owned by Posen family will be transferred to the owners of Whitetail Farm. So that's the, how the driveway will be now onto the Whitetail Farm property. All the property owners have to sign, they all have to sign the record plan, and there will be deeds that will be recorded with the record plan.
And our motion is in essence just authorizing you to handle
Just to-
all the
actually,
mechanics.
What will happen is, tonight you would just be authorizing me to prepare the resolution that would then be on your agenda next month, where you would actually formally grant, the approval.
Okay, so this is the first step where we give you the green light to do the paperwork so that next month we can decide whether we want to approve it or not. Okay. Well, let me start with, if anybody has questions, I'll start.
Well, isn't this the property owner that came in that spoke highly of the Variety Club's property, that he was the one mostly impacted by it? Does this property adjoin the athletic fields, the AstroTurf field that the Variety Club's proposing to put in?
I'm sorry, did you ask if is it adjoining the athletic fields?
Yeah,
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
you didn't design this and look to see what the neighbors are on either side?
I'm not sure if there are athletic fields that adjoin it. I'm sorry. There's no construction activity associated with this application. It's simply the lot line change to get the driveway on the correct property. So it's really not impacting anything around the back or sides of that 51-acre parcel.
This is all zoned agricultural, you're just redrawing a line to move a driveway, right?
Exactly.
Everybody gets along and this will be all legal, so yeah, I mean, this is consolidating.
Just to clarify, the driveway itself is not moving at all. It's simply the lot line change to get the driveway on the correct property that it's serving.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions, Steve?
No.
Any other questions, Lou?
Move forward.
Okay, then Lou, if you want to make a motion, I
Make
will
a mo-
entertain it.
Hold on, wait, hold on. All right, so we're on motion A, motion to authorize Township Solicitor to prepare a resolution, 1543 Trooper Road, lot line change, with the condition that no prior deed restrictions are being broken. That's a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, we've got a motion to approve a waiver of land development for the waiver of land development application 2024-01, which is going to be PA American Water Company, 2523 Skipback Pike, for a material storage structure. I saw somebody race to our table, so obviously and get some more information. Do you want to cue this up, John, or do you want to leave it for the applicant?
I'll let it up to the applicant. I'll give some background though. The existing property received a waiver of land development in 2018 to put in a water tank. The board approved that and they moved forward with construction of that tank and the associated piping. The proposal in front of you would usually be handled by a grading permit because the improvements are minor in nature. But since the waiver of land development was granted in 2018, we thought it would be appropriate to go in front of the board again.
That is correct. So my name is Anthony Carmassi. I'm the engineer for this project, and behind me is Mike Evenson with PA American. So PA American owns this property. So PA American owns this property, and they have a pump station on, it's right on the corner of Skipback Pike, right by the turnpike there. And they own this parcel. They currently have an existing pump station on this site. They're requesting a waiver of land development. What they're trying to do is extend less than 5,000 square feet of pavement and just put up a couple bays for storage of fill. Whenever there's an emergency repair on a water line, And they gotta store that somewhere to be used for backfilling later, instead of having to haul it to another site and get
But
rid
you
of
said
it.
Skip Back Pike and what road?
It's right on the corner. The turnpike's right behind it here. The 476.
Yeah, but whereabouts? I'm just trying to get a mental picture.
the
Is there a cross street down?
Are they by your development, Rick?
I forget what that
North
cross
Wales?
is. I'm sorry.
That's down on the left-hand side before you hit North Wales, right? Is that the
Correct,
one I'm thinking of? Okay.
Right there. Sorry, I couldn't remember the street name there.
Yeah, it's
I'm
sort
not
of-
from around this area.
It's in
Where your
between.
generating station is.
Yeah, yeah, before you get to that, yeah.
Currently, there's one property owner that's over here. We're well within setback requirements. We've gone through and satisfied the stormwater requirements as per CKS's comments. We've responded, we've gone through that and gotten a clean letter of approval. They've had, when they built the pump station, they got a waiver of land development for that. And this is a small site. It's less than 5,000 impervious area added to it. And we're just requesting that we get another waiver of land development to proceed with this project as well.
Okay.
What's the actual size of the building?
There's no building going on,
building.
but there's less than 5,000 square feet of pavement being put down. And then kind of just like concrete Jersey barrier bays to store some excavation until they need it.
And I guess you're proposing screening, so driving up and down Skip Back Pike, it won't be seen from the road?
No, we're adding, there's already a lot of trees along there.
Right.
And we're adding along the frontage of where the existing pump station is now, on the other side of the drive into there, more evergreen trees so that it can provide even further screening.
Got you, thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Betts?
Yes, sir. You're just adding 5,000 square foot of pervious coverage, right?
Yeah, 5,000 square feet of pavement and then some stormwater improvements in order to help reduce the runoff coming from the site.
And this is zoned, what zoning is this? Property?
I believe so.
No, what zoning are we talking about here? We're adding 5,000 square just to store like Jersey barriers or whatever you said. You're storing construction equipment? Is that what you?
No, it's just going to be from excavation. So when there's like an emergency repair, they have the backfill to get
Material.
Material, yes.
Stone.
It's just material.
Modified,
It's just
2B stone.
material storage, yes.
So you're using it as a holding area, as a construction site,
It's just going to be a holding area for some
staging area.
backfill so that whenever there's an emergency repair, it's readily available for them.
And it meets our zoning use, or?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the facility's already there.
I
It's
mean,
just,
we're just
so,
adding
no.
pervious coverage.
There's no issue with doing this at that site. What they're asking for us is in 2018, we gave them a waiver of land development, and they're in essence asking for us to allow them a similar waiver of land development so they don't need to go through an exhaustive process to put the additional paving that
No.
they've already worked with John to get sort of, no, it's a fair question. I mean,
I just didn't,
no,
this one's new to me. So
If I may.
Sure.
So it would be something similar that's right behind the township building for the public works, those 3 concrete bins that had like sand modified.
holding
Yeah.
Correct.
material.
Very similar to something like that.
Sure.
I don't have an issue with sort of granting the waiver development that you're asking. I think that we've covered the bases fairly well. If somebody has a specific concern, I certainly understand that, but I think if you're okay with it, then
And there's no impact to any neighbors? I'm just looking down the road. Like, nobody's gonna it's already in the same use.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be any more impact of trucks, tractors.
No, they might get in like 1 or 2 trucks a week, if that.
Sure.
it's very little activity at present.
I'm not familiar, but I'm on board with what you're saying and everything you're stating. So I'll make a motion that we approve the waiver of land development for application 2024-01, Pennsylvania American Water, 2523 Skip Back Pipe for material storage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You all? All right, next up is going to be a motion to appoint an environmental engineer and authorize the interim township manager to execute an agreement. So, a little background here, guys. I think as you'll recall, we've raised questions. Well, there have been a series of questions that have been raised over the last few months on BET and that site, and in general, sort of environmental concerns. When we were up at PSATs, Steve and I had an opportunity to talk with the folks from Upper Merion to get some advice from them and kind of things they had done. They had talked about saying having sort of an environmental sort of liaison that in terms of that. Then we had an executive session where we met with one candidate. We we had instructed Jay to reach out and find any other potential candidates. And in essence, tonight we have two candidates that we can consider. There's AET Global, there's Panoni. We're sort of the two. We had information in the packet. I don't know how we want to talk about it. Do we want to? I don't mind starting. I don't mind if Steve wants to start. I don't mind if you want to start.
I'll let Steve start this one.
Okay.
What's that?
I'll start either way. You can.
I'm sorry.
You want me to start with this, or do you want me to?
No, you can go.
I can go forward. All right, so Steve did bring up originally that we do have some concerns with that one property, and we did bring in AET, and we did have a meeting, and he's local, and he's an environmental consultant with a number of engineering degrees, and being local, I feel that he's, in my opinion, that he's the likely candidate, and that's where my direction would go, because his local concern and his ability, and that's my opinion.
Okay. So he's not my candidate.
That is understandable.
You know that, and so I think Panoni is a better avenue for us. I think that as an organization, I think they can do certain things for us that I'm not sure AET can. They have a team of environmental people. This is an environmental concern, ultimately, so that's why we had a second. I think their skill set better aligns to what, I mean, I think there's a combination of concerns regarding that property. Certainly they're all sort of at least initially environmentally related, and having somebody that, so we sort of has the ability to go back and take a look at, I guess would have been 262 pages of paperwork from the removal of the tanks. I know there were questions about the removal of the tanks. Did that happen correctly? Were T's crossed and I's dotted properly? They can effectively go back and help us sift through that information adequately and get some comfort, either that it was or wasn't done right. And then going forward, can be used in an ad hoc way to liaison and sort of represent us and bridge the comfort level ultimately to our community that we're making sure that it's right on that site and that they're following the rules and that we have a means and a mechanism to hold their feet to that fire. I think they're a better vehicle for that.
One more thing before we go to Steve. Of the three members of the board, I'm the one that actually owns a property that had environmental issues and but a well-rounded education in this. And I believe that I don't need NASA to fix my kite. So I'm just saying that I think that, not that he's not well qualified, I'm not saying that. I just think that we ought to stay local, and I'm going to leave it go at that. Steve, you're up.
I haven't been happy with the service there for a number of months, and I've expressed my concerns regarding a number of things. I still, when I go past there, I mention about the soil retention thing that's still rolled up in a ball, and I was told that, well, the soil conservation was out there. I sat on the soil conservation board for almost 2 decades in the county, and I was involved in making a lot of the rules, regulations going back in the 80s. So I'm well aware of the soil conservation. And when it rains, I go up the road and I still see that round thing still sitting there, and the water comes down off those cinder blocks down into the creek. So, not happy with the whole situation regarding a lot of things in the township. But at this time, I'm not prepared to make a motion on hiring an environmental engineer. Thank you.
Okay. And we will table the motion. We will table the motion. I mean,
I'll make a motion that we employ AT Global.
I will not second that.
I understood that.
And to round it out, I will make a motion that we appoint Pannoni to act as our environmental consultant in this matter. And there is no second.
Motion fails?
So both motions fail at this point.
Moving on.
Moving on. Okay. So next up, we have a motion to authorize the interim township manager to execute an agreement for traffic engineering services. Jay, I'm going to let you grab this one and give us a little more information, and we'll proceed from there.
If you recall at the, no, this is a different one. This is one of the concerns that have been brought to my attention by the residents is the traffic signal at Skipback Pike and Boostad Road. Numerous complaints from residents relative to the timing and the execution of that light, as well as both the state representative and the state senator's office has called me relative to the operation of this light because they are picking it up in town hall meetings from their constituents. When I did some investigation, the timing at this intersection has not been analyzed since 2004. So 20 years ago, the timing was set and has been running that way since. Well, a lot's happened in 20 years. The traffic patterns on Skipback Pike have changed. The traffic patterns on Boostad Road have changed. And I obtained a quote to have it analyzed, and that quote is in the amount of $5,100.
If I understand correctly, Jay, we need to do the traffic in order to get any adjustment made. This is a step that has to happen and hasn't happened in 20 years.
Right, in order to change any timing or to prove that the timing is still correct, you need a traffic study. And if it does get to the point where we want to have the timing and the sequence in the lights modified, then you would ask PennDOT permission to go through their engineering, and the township would receive approval because even though it's a state road, the township is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that traffic signal.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you remember the reasoning behind Worcester's board a number of years ago regarding the timing of the traffic signals was to make it hard for people to get through our traffic lights. That way, the people wouldn't come through Worcester and use our roads. So I don't think it's really worked, the basic philosophy of the township in the past, so.
I think it's probably a good idea to do it.
Right.
Lou, do you have any questions?
Yeah, do we do this on every intersection or just on the ones that go to the complaints? So this one's been done 20 years ago. Do we do an evaluation on all our on our traffic signals?
Evaluations of traffic signals historically in most municipalities are based on residents' concerns and complaints. And trust me, there is never going to be a perfect sequencing of the lights that makes everyone happy, but this one in particular, when the research was made, is 20 years.
Okay, so my question is, do you have a report on all our traffic signals? And has there been, and the fire department might even identify, has there been more than a number of accidents that are, is this a bad intersection? I can ask the gentleman in the audience.
I can tell you that when I contacted PSP, in the last 12 months, there's been 16 motor vehicle accidents at that intersection, and I don't know if they were reportable or non-reportable, but PSP has been responding to 16.
And that would be evidence enough to start a study. Would that be a good statement, or?
Yes.
Mr. Betts, if you remember, the worst accident probably in the last few months was the Pennsylvania State Police had a bad accident there.
I'll make a motion that we authorize interim township manager to execute an agreement, traffic engineer study, data collection, evaluation for the traffic signal at Skipback Pike and Bustard Road, not to exceed $5,100.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Next meeting, next one.
Okay. So next up, so I'm not sure if this is a cart in front of the horse or not, but the next item up is a motion to authorize CKS and the township staff to prepare and advertise bid documents for the test boring, excavation, grading, slab installation, all electrical work, drainage, et cetera, for the installation of a band shell at Hebner Park. I'm not sure, I know we had talked about it briefly last month. I know we want to do it. There was some question about the site locations, and now I don't know that have we finalized on the site location? Have we had the time to sort of evaluate other sites? I think we're all for moving forward. I don't want to be authorizing a bid for documents to do things if we're not sure that's the right place.
I believe, did it ever go to land planning to get other evaluations other than the two, I'm going to say maybe obvious sites in Hebner Park? Did land planning have any input on this at all? Do you know? Anybody know? No. Didn't go to land planning.
You mean the planning commission?
Planning.
I'm sorry, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Planning then. I think this is such a major project, only because it impacts the whole community that's going to benefit from it. If we do all this money and put it in the wrong spot, I would rather do a little research on maybe other sites, maybe other site position on that site.
Right.
I mean, yeah, this isn't like mobile where we're going to just move it because we didn't like it and it didn't affect because Hebner Park's really not that big, and I hate to impact the field. I'm not trying to delay it, and I know it's not going to happen this year, even if we passed it today. So,
No, one of the things we certainly want to prepare for is we'll need to put these things out to bid when we decide. So maybe the timetable better served. First off, Steve, do you have any thoughts you want to toss in on this? I think we all agree we want to do it. I think we want to make sure
can we send it to planning? Is that
Sure,
an option?
absolutely.
I would request that we have more eyes on this and a board of 5 and participants, and maybe even advertise to the public that, hey, land planning, planning that.
Absolutely.
Comments because, say again? Okay, then you want to put it there? Then don't do that. Okay.
We vote the planning people in for a reason. I think they have enough sense.
Right.
A little bit of feedback. Yeah,
Are you good with that? I
am.
I know this has been your
pet peeve.
desire, but I don't want to. So I don't want to.
It's not going to happen this year anyway.
I want to feel like we're not honoring
I
that.
would direct it to planning and let them get some input, and then.
So I think what the thought is that we think it's probably Hebner Park does make sense ultimately. I think, but we're also not sold on where whether there's a better angle, and we talked last month about the sun and some of the other things, and just sort of getting some sense to, um, is there another part in place to do that? I mean, we still will need to do all the bid work that needs to happen. We don't want to sidestep that, but if we could maybe move it through them to get some input to say, yeah, we think those two sites make sense, or we think this third site maybe does, but it's more work and it's a bigger conversation for us one way or the other. I think, does that still give us an opportunity to be working on working on an interval that's like, and this type of bid, John, is it a month? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? Is it for some of the things that we're talking about here?
2 weeks, John, 2 weeks.
So it's a loaded question, right? Depending on where we ultimately decide to put it, the utilities are going to need to be made. So applications to PICO, if we have to make a new connection.
Right.
The locations of bathroom facilities, parking. I think that's why Hebner Park was narrowed down to where it was, is because all these items are existing. We certainly can have, talk to this planning commission and investigate other parks in the township. But there are other considerations that we need to think about.
Sure.
So if we pick a park that doesn't have adequate parking, that additional parking will have to be provided. ADA accessibility, all those sorts of issues will need to be worked out.
Okay, understood. But I mean, but ultimately, I still think it's a logical step to do. I think that's where it should go next, to
Do you
give it to
agree that
planning.
that's a good idea that we do a little research on this and let?
Of course.
I'm just asking. I think it's a good idea that we just, like you said, the cart before the horse, we're ready to go to battle.
No, I know we were eager to start moving on it, and sometimes we get,
But it's June, and
June.
it's not going to happen tomorrow, so. Yeah, send it to planning,
all right. We're gonna send that to planning
please.
and get their input.
So I need a motion to send it to planning?
Nope, we don't.
We do not.
All right, so next up, we're gonna have a motion to authorize intercounty investigation and solutions to provide the executive level pre-employment background investigation for the Worcester Township manager candidate upon the issuance of a conditional offer. So this is early in the sense that we haven't picked somebody yet, but we certainly, part of the process is a background check. So we want to take the step to make sure that we have somebody lined up when that time happens. Just a quick update for the audience, the application period is still open in terms of the ad for a new township manager, that it will remain open through, at this point, it's through the end of next week, through the 28th. And then, we're screening candidates as they come in, and the timetable past that, we're not sure. It's about interviewing and working through that process, but ultimately, one of the steps will be getting to a conditional offer phase, and we want to make sure that we didn't get caught in between meetings to not have this approved by the board. We've done similar things in the past, Steve, as you know. I know it's not, we don't always love spending the dollars, but you want to make sure you do an adequate background check on somebody, and this is a full service that they do for it's approximately $3,500, and that is in essence the prevailing rate for that type of service. So I'll start with if anybody has any questions. We do have some information on our packet, I think, on this one, section, I don't know what, K, if you want to look at any of it.
It's a standard operating procedure, I assume?
It has been. So it didn't used to be in the old days, but
Did we do this in the past?
We did. We have at least the last two managers that I don't know prior to that. So that takes us back to at least 2015.
Same company that we use?
I'm not 100% sure of. But this is through the minor center recommendation. So it is conceivable it's the same organization, but I can't say that definitively.
I guess we have no choice. I mean, we have no choice. We are. So I'll make a motion that we approve inter-county investigation solutions to provide executive level pre-employment background investigation for Worcester Township Manager candidate upon issuance of a conditional offer in the amount of $3,495.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Betts.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
Bet you need to find a backdoor after you retire from the tag business like this for your business. Like these retired cops. What a gig these guys have.
$3,500 is say yep. And if they're wrong, they still get paid.
Be that as it may, we soldier forward to the next motion. Next motion is going to be to authorize the submittal of it's a matching funds commitment letter to fund approximately $296,000 for the Skipback Creek Alliance project so that they can submit a Growing Greener grant application for up to $500,000 in grant funding. So this is in essence the matching funding. Who's got some more information that can sort of fill in some of the pieces about the Skipback Alliance? The public may not be aware of what that is and sort of what this grant is.
That'd be me. So as part of required reductions in sediment and pollutions in runoff, DEP mandates every municipality to implement an MS4 program, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer program, to regulate the amount of sediment and nutrients that are ultimately end up in the streams. The Skipback Alliance comprises of 4 municipalities that will share responsibilities for projects in each of those municipalities. And we're requesting a commitment letter to accompany our application from the township. Worcester's portion of this, $296,000, if it was to be awarded, would be 16.25%.
Right. So I guess you've answered the question that I was going to ask. Is in essence, the 296 is not all for Worcester. It's for our portion of the alliance, which is a half a dozen.
So the 296 would make up what the whole project is lacking in funding, and that 296 would be split between the 5 municipalities.
Gotcha. So 16.6% of 296,000 is approximately.
I ain't doing it. You go.
So it's 30,000 plus 6% is another, what, 17? So maybe just under 50 grand? Am I in that neighborhood?
Just under 50.
Okay, so it's just under 50,000.
$49.95, is that what
We're getting in for a discount. I don't have the math, but 16.6 of 296 is about 46 or 47,000, if my math is right. If I'm wrong, then.
I'll challenge that. So every township is contributing the same amount of money is what you're stating?
Actually, there's some municipalities that actually have to contribute more. It's not split evenly. Talamenton, I think, has a bigger chunk that they're responsible for because some municipalities can't do projects within their own municipality. So that there's actually some municipalities that are responsible for more share of the projects.
Based on square footage of whatever.
What's
the more land mass, the more you're paying.
Yeah, or you have areas to do it, yeah. So this project is to stream bank restoration on the Zacharias Creek for approximately 1,100 lineal feet. And this project would have the most bang for its buck with reduction in sediment and nutrients.
So you might recall, Lou, I don't know if it predates you or not, but there was a period where the Skipback Alliance was teetering, if you will. And so the percentages, they had to sort of sit down in a room and bang out a way to make, is it 5 or 6 that are still participating? Do you know offhand?
I want to say 5. I know it's half fill.
But we lost somebody along the way, 1 or 2, but to keep sort of the remaining 5 content, they sort of had to tinker with the percentages a little bit to sort of make everybody feel that they were getting the right value, but overall, it's a good thing for us. It allows us to sort of distribute our requirements across 5 municipalities in a better way that's easier for us to meet the MS4 requirements that we're required to do. So,
Have the other 4 townships already approved theirs? And we're like the holdout, or?
So all the municipalities are in about the same process. They have 5 years to complete projects, and we have the permit in hand, and the 5 years that clock is ticking. So each municipality has the same conversations with their board members with projects that are located in their municipality.
Let's rephrase the question then. Has any other township approved their allotted money?
I think that's within the agreement, right? That whatever the projects are, that they're agreed to pay for these projects.
So that's
There has not been as far as I know, there has not been any projects completed or allocated. The purpose of doing this now is that every municipality is trying to get free money to have for grants. So we did this exercise a few months ago for another grant. We did not receive that grant, so we're just going down the list of trying to get as much money as we can from the state and federal governments.
So we're just authorizing the grant application at this point.
That's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. We're not committing the 50,000 until everybody gets their tally up to.
We're gonna get the grant and then, and we'll be with it.
All right, so I guess I'll make a motion that based on what you just stated as far as getting approval of the grant, we're gonna make a motion to submit of a matching fund commitment letter, approximately 296,000 total for Skipback Creek Alliance project located in Worcester Township, and we are anticipating a submittal of Growing Greener grant application for up to 500,000, which is the grant, so our portion would be 16%, did you say?
16.6%, I think.
16.6%.
Approximately.
So I'll make that motion, what we just said.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor, Bob?
Bob Andorn, Worcester. So it's just unclear to me specifically what this is. So if you guys could work on presenting a cleaner picture in the agenda so that we could understand this better. Because clearly you guys didn't understand it either. So you're making a commitment. You're going to file an application for a grant. If you don't get the grant and you've made this commitment letter, are we obligated for those funds?
No.
No.
Okay.
Just confirming that, but no, that is my understanding.
So, and then you're back and forth in terms of percentages and values and et cetera. So if you could maybe just try to expand upon the document in the agenda so that somebody could look at that, especially in advance, and say, we're filing an application for a grant for up to $500,000. Worcester is one of 5 participating parties. Our commitment is 16.6%. We all have to try to get on board to do this. If you could just try to expand on that so that we understand that, and then maybe even answer the obvious question, if the grant doesn't come through, then the project obviously won't go ahead, or we are going ahead with the project and we're going to have to fund it individually. So just kind of provide that information so that we kind of understand better what it is that you're proposing to do.
Has a report been written on this? Do you know?
So,
This project?
so we've had fair comments. We'll certainly look at giving better detail on that. The Skip Back Alliance in particular has been in various meetings along the way, so it's always hard to your question, we're required to have a 20% reduction. There's dates and times across 5 years that needs to happen. So what sort of has been happening along the way, as John was saying, is we've been trying to find grants to help us meet that requirement across the 5 years. At some point, if we don't have grant funding, we still need to do the reduction. So there's a clock that is ticking across those 5 years of the permit process. So I don't remember the exact date that the permit was issued, but certainly there will be a point where yes, we're going to need to, as a collective group, spend whatever money is necessary to meet the sediment reduction requirement, but I don't, yes.
And I'm in,
Yep.
I fully support that, and it's just the background information. So having that information, just permit was granted in X.
Yeah.
We have until Y to address it. If we don't find, to your point, if you explain that, if we don't find grants that will help to defer those costs, Worcester will be obligated to come up with Y dollars. Just put all of the information out there so that we understand what it is and can understand better where that funding will eventually come from, albeit a state or municipal source or our own pockets.
Fair enough.
Bob, once again, this is not something new. It's something every couple of years it comes up with. And we've been doing it. I've been here 17 years, and it comes up that the engineering comes in and says, hey, we have to do some sediment counts that we're doing our good work from stream back alignment or keeping the animals out of the creeks or planting seaweed along there. It's just,
Sure, no.
and I understand what you're saying.
I recall there
Explaining it
being
to the-
previous discussions. I'm just saying,
Right.
for those of us who have limited memories, you know, if we just put a little extra effort into it and document it so that it's refresher and then we can just review it and understand fully what it is. That's all. Great, thank
Thank
you.
you, Bob. Is there any additional public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, next up we have, all right, so this is going to be, another motion. It's going to be to execute a land rental agreement between Worcester Township and Drew Bechtel for the property located at 2955 Fisher Road for the period of May 28th, 2024 through December 31, 2024. It has to do with farming of that particular parcel. Jay, I know that we have some information in the packet, but can you sort of summarize what the situation is here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This piece of property is owned by the township. It's open space. There was a previous offer to mow and bale the hay that's on it for $1. Mr. Bechtel is willing to do that twice this year for $1,200 in two equal payments of $600 due at two specific periods, but Mr. Bechtel wrote a check to the township for the full amount. I believe it was last week, delivered it to the township as well as an executed contract. We're still looking for someone else to do another piece of property. Mr. Bechtel was not interested in the second piece of property we offered him.
So I understand, we had somebody doing this previously who doesn't want to do it anymore? And
No, there was never anyone, but there was an offer on the table, unofficial, when I came in for $1 to do it.
And basically, we want them mowing it and taking all the hay off the property.
Maintaining the property and keeping it cut twice a year. Doesn't require the township employees to get involved in it. We wouldn't have the machinery to cut and bale hay.
Gotcha. This might be up your alley more than mine.
Hey, what?
Baling hay?
Yeah. Did we go out, so we're charging them $1,200?
Correct.
So did we go out like everything else we're doing now in the township, going to 10 other townships, seeing what they charge farmers to make hay?
From what I understand, and I'm not an expert on this, this is significantly above what most people get for the cutting of open space and baling it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, I'm done. I won't say anymore. Thank you.
So what I would say is that my thought is to let him do it. He does it twice, and if we find it really doesn't work, then we find somebody else to do it. I mean, you're saying we're really not equipped to bale hay with the existing equipment we have, is my understanding. Would that be a fair statement, Jay?
That would be correct.
We were mowing it. It takes our men to go out and mow it and do this stuff. And once again, there's very few people. We're contacted by a lot of people in the township to mow their fields, and we won't even do it with the labor involved in the gas and the stuff and the quality of hay coming off the field. It's just not worth it.
So maybe he's got horses, or maybe he's got some use for the hay, and it's a win for him to do something with the hay. But if he can maintain it for us, is that, do you know Drew Bechtel?
Yeah, in fact, he approached, I said something to Tommy last year, or whatever, maybe not Tommy, Sean, and never went through. Certainly, we wouldn't farm it. But once again, horses are pretty picky animals that they don't like junk hay. They like some kind of timothy or something, and I'm not even sure what kind of hay. It has no value. It's just a pass-through item that, but he used to farm it. I guess he used to seed it and take care of it, but I guess he dropped out of it and he wasn't contacted to do it. But I think it's probably more of a mulch hay. It's not much good for animal use.
Gotcha. But either way, he's going to remove that for us, correct? He's
Correct.
part of the. Seem reasonable, or
So he's gonna pay us $1,200 to cut the field, is what you're stating.
and remove all the hay?
Haul it away.
Yeah.
Do whatever he does. Feed
Do
the
whatever he
horses,
does.
whatever.
Or just use it as mulch? Yeah.
I'm on board. I don't know anything about hay or feeding horses, or it just sounds like we're getting paid to do nothing.
We are, and I think
So
it's
when-
not a multi-year contract. If it turns out to be not perfect,
We're good to
with
go.
different
I did look up
2025.
the address 2955 Fisher Road, and I didn't find it, so I assume it's kind of near Swingfelder Church. It's a field across the bay, I guess. And we own it, I think.
Correct.
Okay. Just didn't know that was one of ours, but that's okay. So I'll make a motion that we authorize township manager to execute the land rental agreement between Worcester Township and Drew Bechtel for property at supposedly 2955 Fisher Road for a period of May 28, which is now, this is June 19th, so I don't know how you're going back in date, but I guess we have a wayback machine through December 31 of 24, and it's back to the future, I guess. So.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on the motion on the floor?
There we
Bob?
Dun, 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 dun.
Bobby and Jordan. I still don't understand, because you guys kind of talk in two different ways. Are we paying Drew Bechtel, or is he paying us?
Paid us. Paid us $1,200.
Great.
There's a copy of the check.
Perfect. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. I had asked
understand
that
now.
question too. I was trying to say,
I
did
didn't
we get,
understand it. So
somebody
along
wanted
the
to do it
same
for
lines
$1.
of the
I
previous comment I made.
Yep.
If the agenda item specifically said, this is what we're proposing to do, this is how much he's going to pay us, I wouldn't even have to get up here. Could we work on trying to identify the agenda items that give us some valued information so that we know what we're doing, and doing it in advance so that we can ask important questions or do the research? I don't have to hear that and then try to formulate my questions in this very short period. Thank you.
And on top of that, Bob, we're going back in time because we're authorizing something that may's already happened. How do you figure that?
He's paying us.
I'm with you on the money, but
Take
think
the
about
money.
it. We can't backdate a zoning meeting, but we can backdate a contract to cut some grass. So I'm just saying, it's a little, whatever. Well, everybody gets their own way. But anyway, I'll make a motion. Did I make the motion?
You already made the motion, and it's been seconded.
Whatever.
And he was public comment. But do we have any additional public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Folks, we're here all night. Don't
Yes, we are.
forget to tip your waitresses and
Fun keeps
waiters.
coming. Yes, it is.
Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We're not nearly as entertaining as we think we are.
$1,200. Never mind.
So, all right, next up, we have a motion, and it's not going to be a motion, I think, for the whole thing, but we're going to have a conversation regarding the advertisement for amendment to zoning ordinance and related items for fence height, accessory structure height, and size. So, there's information in the packet. I think we probably want to carve it up, ultimately. So there were questions raised over the last few months regarding fence height, accessory uses, and signs, the sign ordinance, and some different things. So the solicitor, at the direction of the township staff, they've been working on providing us more information on those items, and now we can decide, and ultimately, are some of them clean that we can just move on them, or should certain ones be sent over to the planning commission so the planning commission can offer input for them. So in the past, we've called this like a cleanup ordinance, that occasionally we just make some zoning adjustments to make sure language is clean and consistent. The question on the fence height was regarding height, 6 feet. So the way the current ordinance allows for a 6-foot fence in non-residential areas, and you had asked, is there any reason it can't be 6 feet across the township versus 5 feet? So that's a fairly straightforward, we decide if that makes sense or not. The accessory use is a little trickier, and maybe Wendy, you could take a couple minutes on the accessory uses, sort of what we have, what what some of the research we've done, and maybe what makes sense on those. My knee jerk is that one probably needs a little bit more digesting with the planning commission, but I'd love to hear what you found.
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump in here a little bit. So,
Sure.
as you had mentioned, my office had been requested to take a look at these various sections of the zoning ordinance and try to come up with some suggestions as to amendments. Any amendment of the zoning ordinance does need to go to the planning commission for their review and input in any event. But as you said, some of these are a little bit more complicated, particularly with regard to accessory buildings and structures. And currently, the ordinance does not have a size limitation for an accessory structure. So we had taken a look, and Devin in my office had met with Christian. Christian had done some research. Devin had also done some research and looked at ordinances in surrounding municipalities to see what they provide with regard to accessory structures. And frankly, there's a lot of information here, but ultimately, the suggestion was, and this is all, I think, something that is an appropriate discussion to happen in front of the Planning Commission for their review and input to see what makes the most sense in the township. I don't think we want to do a workshop here this evening for that.
Right.
And there's currently, as I said, there is no size limitation, there is a height limitation. So in order to have accessory structures in keeping with the size of a house and the size of a lot, it does make sense to have some kind of more specific limitations put into the zoning ordinance.
Right. So I think, a couple things. I agree. I mean, we want them to noodle on different things. I think as a board, what we'd want to share, we've all kind of talked about saying, and you've brought this up in multiple meetings, is getting the zoning aligned in such a way so if a resident doesn't have to go for zoning relief on things that maybe just aren't quite aligned perfectly. The fence height was one, and just sort of saying, if somebody wants to put up a 6-foot fence is not a unreasonable height size for many privacy fences now, and we've certainly seen a desire for residents to want more privacy than maybe we did in the past. So having some consistency with that, I think, collectively the board, we all seem to support something like that. So part of our discussion is saying, we think it makes sense. That one, I don't think, again, we want their input, but that one we kind of support. The accessory one, you were talking about saying, hey, get something that every time somebody wants to do something, it doesn't require a zoning application. If we can get some sense of, having no height, we got height and we don't have anything, sort of leaves it open to interpretation and what might be appropriate or not, and then we get into zoning decisions. And as we saw earlier tonight, certainly the timing was not intended, but with the comments earlier, it's not ideal if we don't have a crisper sort of definition on some of those things. So that was the accessory uses. The sign one, with the questions raised about temporary signs, and there's been questions raised about how we properly enforce or don't enforce. That one maybe takes more time, but still belongs with planning, sort of offering their input for sure. And then there was one, and I guess I don't understand it, but it had to do with the cable franchise, what we were trying to do there.
Yeah, so the wireless communications facility, there was an ordinance that was adopted several years ago that states where cell towers are permitted. That is a standalone ordinance in the township. It's not part of the zoning ordinance. So our recommendation is that that be incorporated into the zoning ordinance. And it states where wireless communication facilities are permitted in the township. So we're not recommending any change, but rather it be incorporated into your zoning ordinance. So I think that that's
Right.
potentially a cleanup item. Doesn't really call for discussion because the
Right.
ordinance was adopted, and assuming that everyone is still happy with what it provides,
Right.
it would just be to incorporate it into the zoning ordinance.
Gotcha. And those were the items I know you had raised accessory uses specifically and fence height. Were there any that we missed in terms of items that you had raised previously?
Let's not feed them too much at one time.
No,
As far as your communication thing, I would like that to be separate. I know you want to put it in the zoning. And that,
It can be in both places, but it is important that it says specifically in the zoning ordinance which districts they are permitted in.
do we identify that now?
It's in our standalone ordinance, but from a procedural perspective, it should also be included in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, so that's just like an amendment to what we have. That I
you're
understand.
not changing that one. That one, yeah, that one we're good with.
Just clarifying that.
Yep, for
As
sure.
far as this report that I think somebody did, that I can't believe that Limerick has a 5-inch structural setback, or Talmenson has a 20-inch setback. I think the typewriter got stuck. I really don't care about other townships, other than you're using them as a guideline, but, you know, what Lower Providence does is way denser than Worcester, and our zonings are all over as far as agriculture and R125, 50, 175. So, I mean, I believe planning has to identify a lot of that. As far as like the fence, apparently was 6, then it was 5, and I would like to make it 6. And land planning, I would like them to do input. The signed ordinance, I mean, let's move into the 21st century. I believe the fire department wants an internally illuminated sign that's active messaging, emergency related, whatever. So there are 2 items. As far as accessory structure, I don't really want to upset the whole world on that one, but the reason I think they came about is if it fits the building envelope, you know, the only reason I wanted to do was raise the height was a concern because people have motorhomes, and if everybody has to have a flat roof just because they want to put their 14-foot motorhome in there, again, I'm trying to help the people here. I'm not trying to like.
I understand.
I
That's
don't
why
want
I
to
say,
planning also. I'm not.
Sure.
I mean, there's 3 items right there that identify, and I'd like to give them some guidance, like signs. Pick 1, fence. Pick 2, accessory structures. This whole little thing. I mean, that's its own special meeting, in my opinion.
well, it can be, right, and I guess I guess the advice that we'd want to give them is if they got a couple that they can get through quickly, then get them back to us. Don't wait, and if it takes longer on other items, then take as long as they need
That one, yeah.
to sort of go through that. And certainly the guidance we're looking to say is if there's not a perfect way to describe it, but ultimately we're looking at folks that wind up before zoning that we kind of look and say, hey, that's the same issue 5 times, and is there a better way that we can draft the ordinance to avoid that because it's now coming up regularly? What you had talked about was, you know, the height of an RV now relative to what it used to be, and whether we're meeting with the demand and whether there is any of that. So certainly we can and should provide that direction to the planning commission in terms of where the board thinks on those topics. But my thought is if there are items they can work through timely, return them timely, and we can advertise and vote on a zoning change if they can do that. If they need more time for other items, don't wait for completion of something that might need multiple meetings from them if that's manageable.
Yes, the fence and the sign, I think, should be somewhat easier. Let's move forward on them initially, if we could do so.
I'm fine with that. Steve, you have any thoughts?
No, I mean, we contacted Limerick, and as far as size goes, if they have a power plant there, I don't know if Worcester will put a power plant, or township based on that, so. I guess my comment is, I'm just amazed that when I first got on the board, Worcester never communicated with anybody. I mean, they didn't, we were a little oasis here, we didn't get involved with other townships. Now, before we do anything, we have to check with all the other townships.
No.
They do, so
I don't think we do.
Is it progress? I don't know if it's progress.
Well, I think the point is trying to take a look at what surrounding municipalities were doing. I don't, certainly not a requirement, but it's a good idea to see what your neighbors are doing.
No.
But now we have to check with everybody else.
No. I don't believe we need to.
That's not the way it used to be.
So do we need a motion on this one, or?
We don't. We've just redirected it to planning, and if Christian and Jay have additional questions for the board, they should just check with the board, but I think
And I recommend that they submit it, but again, we need guidance to give them some ideas, I think, on, especially on the accessory structure. So, moving forward.
yes, sir. Okay. So no vote on that, folks, just so you understand, we're discussing about some different zoning changes. We're going to move that to our planning commission so that we can provide them a little bit more direction, but they can ultimately chew on some items that we will hopefully have an opportunity to vote on in the future. Okay, next up is, it's going to be a motion to authorize interim township manager to execute agreements with Triad Truck Equipment for purchase and installation of 2-gallon model 130U municipal dump body packages, lights, hydraulics, and Boss 10-foot heavy-duty straight blade plows. So little backdrop, then I'll hand it over to Jay to sort of fill in further. These were capital items. We were hoping to have a grant to pay for them, so they had been approved as part of our capital budget. They didn't qualify for the grant as intended, so we're proceeding forward with them as capitalized items. And I'm going to ask Jay to sort of round that out with any additional detail that he has.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you stated is accurate, and as a matter of fact, we actually own the chassis, and they're sitting at a dealership waiting for the approval of the upfitting of it, which is what all these items are. And as you accurately stated, this is a budgeted item that we were hoping to have a grant cover, but the grant didn't come through. So we need authorization to finish the completion of these 2 units, put them in operation this winter.
And the cost there, just so I have the right number, Jay, that we're gonna, is it 60,000 each or is it 60,000 total?
That's for
Yeah.
60,000 each.
I was afraid of that.
Right?
Well, it was 120,000 that we budgeted as part of the capital budget, but ultimately we were hoping to get some of it reimbursed.
Plows aren't cheap. We own the trucks, correct?
Correct.
So we'll just get them fit, ready for snow in November, December. Does it go out for bid, or do we just pretty much?
Triad is a CoStar's approved contractor, so they have to give us the lowest price available, and they're the ones that are approved to do it.
Okay, so we crossed the Ts and dotted the Is on that one, so I'll make a motion that we approve the interim township managers execute the agreements for Triad Truck Equipment to purchase installation of the 2-gallon model 130U municipal dump bodies, lights, hydraulics, Boss 10-foot plows.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Next up is a motion to ratify the hires of Douglas Lapine and Jaden Newman as Public Works laborer, full-time employees. It's been a while since we've done one of these guys. Do we just need to, I can get a little more direction to what the motion needs to look like in terms of what we need to do here? I don't recall the last time.
So, Mr. Chairman, we looked at past agendas and saw that this was a practice that was done the last time Public Works laborers were hired. So you would just hypothetically be ratifying the hires that were made, and the motion would be as you stated.
Okay.
Easy enough. Make a motion to ratify the hires of Douglas Lapine and Jaden Newman for Public Works.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Just so folks understand, we don't hire them directly. We're just ratifying the hires that we've authorized the township to make in terms of that. But it's been moved and seconded. If anybody has any comments regarding the motion that's on the floor. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye, motion passes. Next item, again, and unfortunately, we have to do a motion to accept the resignation of Fire Marshal Andrew Roquette. So Andrew took another job, or is in the process of taking another job, and unfortunately can't give the time commitment for Fire Marshal anymore. We certainly are sorry to see him move along. That was certainly, we appreciated him in that role and help from the township. Obviously, we're going to need to replace that role, which is a process that hopefully is underway, but ultimately we need to accept the resignation. And Lou, I'm going to ask you to make a motion for that.
He's not leaving town for long. He's coming back. Part of the core here is value of this thing, but I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation of Fire Marshal Andrew Roquette.
It's been moved and seconded and noted that he will be returning per Supervisor Betts. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, next. So this one's been on for a few months, so I'll apologize if there isn't. So we have a motion to accept a deed of dedication for temporary construction easement, stormwater management facilities easement agreement, and shared use path easement agreement with the National Lands Trust, and there's a parcel number there. For folks who have been following along, so we have a long-term project for Valley Forge Road and improvements, and over the course of the last several months, we've been executing easements for various property owners that will be encroached upon at some point when we do construction for that particular project. We've been working for several months with the Natural Lands Trust on their particular parcel. They've been on our agenda for a few months, but we kept not quite getting all the paperwork. Now, Wendy, am I understanding correctly, we have every T crossed and every I dotted, and we have their full cooperation?
We do. We have the documents. They have been executed by Natural Lands Trust, and they were emailed over to us today, the notarized documents. The originals will be dropped off to the township building in the next day or so. So we just need authorization, as you said, to accept the deed of dedication and then execute the temporary construction easement, stormwater management facilities easement, and the shared use path easement agreement with Natural Lands Trust. And that will actually be the last of the easement documents that will likely be coming before the board with regard to the project.
Fair enough. Does anyone have any questions? If you don't have any questions, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the deed of dedication for the temporary construction easement, stormwater management facilities parcel, Natural Lands Trust parcel 670003736004.
Moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Nice job, folks. That one took several months. I appreciate the staying with that one. Next up, we've got a motion to authorize final pay up to DJ Pinciotti Company, Inc. for the Weber Road Culvert Replacement Project in the amount of $72,116.35. Do we have any more information on this?
This is the fifth and final pay estimate for the Weber Road culvert replacement. It includes a change order for work that was required per PICO. There was additional work that PICO contractors were required to do to ensure that the road was open on time. The PICO equipment that was used disturbed more road than was anticipated, and the contractor was required to replace those materials.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on this particular item?
It's completed and we're just paying the bill. Is that how this is going down?
That's correct.
It's inspected and we're satisfied.
That's correct.
Make a motion, we authorize the final payment to DJ Pincati Company, Inc. for the Weber Road Culvert Replacement Project in the amount of $72,116.35.
Moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. That concludes the motions. Next up, we have other business. Does any board member wish to bring any other business before the board at this time?
I have one question that someone brought to my attention. I had to research it a little bit, and if we could get the township manager or assistant manager involved. Community Day, it says budgeted $13,000, and it says expended $6,179. Did we do something? We didn't have Community Day last year. So we have, we spent money on something, but we didn't have Community Day last year. So
Was that from last year? What do you?
are we having one this year? And is that what, is money being, it's already been spent for this
The
day or?
the plan is to have a community day in, I believe,
September.
September.
Yes.
Right. And money's been spent for what, advertising or for, what did we spend money on?
I'll research it, but I would assume it's for advertising, trying to get sponsors. I know we've secured sponsors, I know we've secured vendors.
Okay.
What page are you on there? Do me a favor. Just what page? I don't know.
8.
Page 8.
Somebody brought it to my attention and I figured I'd just clarify and.
I just want to give them the right place to, so page 8 of it, so with the packet, the financial packet that comes with us, page 8, you're questioning Lou.
We spent $6,179 and I was just curious, where'd the money go? And we have 6821 to spend. Yep.
Gotcha.
I'll find out.
Yes, they had been working on Community Day, and certainly we can get you that information. I just wanted to make sure I was getting them to the right place on the document.
You confirming where I'm challenging or asking, whatever?
Yeah, 13,000 is the budget amount. The year-to-date expended is 6179, and we want to know what that 61,
Where did it
what
go?
that was.
Yep.
Reasonable question. We'll get a nice reasonable answer. Perfect. Any other business, Steve? No, sir. Anything else from you? All right, Lou. So public comment, Bob? And then anybody else who wants to have public comment, be ready to go.
Bob Bm, Worcester. So I'm going to sound like the broken record, but instead of coming up here 6 times, I just figured I'd wait and go through them individually, but many of them are the same. But I just wanted to touch on your agenda items and a couple comments. So item C was the environmental engineer. You obviously couldn't agree on one of 2 choices. So, you know, is that a priority? It sounds like it is, that we need to do it. Can you guys find a third potential solution? Or are you guys just going to stick there and hold your guns and no one agrees to A or B? These are more, maybe it's rhetorical. I know you kind of were ready to comment, but again, the information was incomplete, so I don't know, were you guys looking at this as a permanent position, as a consulting position? Was it specifically for one project that seems to be?
So I can stop you on that one. That one was specific to the BET project and the environmental concerns that have been raised and having sort of a liaison between the township and the developer.
Understood.
That was, but not, it was specific to that project.
Right, and that is a priority because there's ongoing concerns from a boatload of residents and as well as the supervisors. So, but again, that information wasn't identified. How much money were you going to pay them? Where was that money coming from? Were we going to try and recover some of that via fines or other ongoing issues?
Understood.
So again, that's all. I think it's a priority and you guys need to go back to the drawing board and find a solution for that.
Fair enough.
Item E was the band shell. I think that's appropriate, but I think you kind of articulated that's the cart before the horse. I think the first thing you need to do is identify what you want. And until you figure out what you want, I don't think you should even be thinking about where you want to put it. Identify what product you want. It can be one of two or three, but then understand it's 60 feet in diameter, it's 180 feet in diameter, and that will help you to determine where it can go or what's the most appropriate thing. So figure out what you want first, and then you can figure out where you want to put it. We went through the land agreement that you're going to put there. Just have notes I'm trying to go back through. You made a reference to item I, where you were talking about the zoning ordinance, and I appreciate you kicking that back. And I kind of saw you and Wendy looking at me. I'm just a member of the Planning Commission, and we'll be happy to look at that, but I'm not the Planning Commission. Not that you were suggesting I was, but you made reference, or somebody made reference, that information's in your packet. So I'm assuming that's just private stuff that you guys have. We don't, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission. I don't have any idea what it is that, as a resident, what you guys were contemplating even reviewing. So every item here that's listed as a motion, we need more information. Now, ultimately, you didn't make a motion, but we need more information prior to the meeting so that we can make a valued decision and understand what it is that you're doing. And these particular things, there could be a lot of information there. It might sound like it's simple, increasing the height from 5 feet to 6 feet for a fence in one condition or another condition, but they take time for people to understand and to look into, to try to understand. So if you guys are keeping it amongst yourselves, then just have the agenda item be discussion of X, Y, or Z, and then have that discussion. We can understand what you're kind of contemplating or reviewing, and then we can take that information and go from there. But if there's anything that you're contemplating making an official action, we need more information and not just provided at the meeting. Same thing, item J, sounded like a broken record. You approve this, okay, it's budgeted, you hope to get it paid for. Why couldn't you have told us it was $60,000, $120,000? There's no ability for us to have any oversight. I'm not disputing what Jay or Christian have said, but can't we have the opportunity to review that beforehand? Can I look at that and say, you're saying it's budgeted, but it's not. I have to take your word for it. Now, I'll go back after the fact and look to see if it, in fact, was budgeted. If it was, then it's a non-issue. But can't we just provide that information to the residents beforehand? Item N, you just approved final payment to contractor for Weber Road. John made reference that there is a change order involved in there. Is it change order $2? Is it 25? It's not more than $72,000, but what was the change order? How much did that impact the project? Was it a cost overrun? Were there cost savings otherwhere? Can't we have this information so that we can understand how we're keeping on track for our budget and where the money, if it's an overage, where it's coming from? Less concern if it's, offset by some other savings, but again, there's no information there. It's very generic. It's not specifically there. And then lastly, you may or may not have touched on it, but in November of 2023, I came before this board and I specifically raised the issue of lighted signs. You guys said that you would look into it and you wanted to do something about it. It's now 7 months later. I'm not aware that you've done anything. If you did, then I apologize for not being on top of it, but I have been coming to every meeting since then. I'm not aware that you made any changes to that. Specifically at that meeting, I did raise two instances, albeit there are others, of signs that are lit in the township that should not be. At the time, that township manager did address those in some fashion, presumably because both of those signs were turned off. Unfortunately, one of those signs is now back on, and he's sitting up there with you. So, Steve, your sign is lit. Your sign is lit. It's illegal unless you have some kind of special permission or some special condition that allows you to have a lighted sign where that's not the case. It's unfair that certain people are just going ahead and ignoring what the rules are that we have. So I don't know if I need to make a special request of this board or the township manager to look into whether we are enforcing the signs, the lighting of signs. I've been clear from before. I think that the ordinance is outdated. It should be updated. I think that Steve should be allowed to have a lighted sign. But it's not part of the law. And so I think it's unfair for certain individuals, and it's not just specifically Marymead, because there are other signs in the township that are not, to the best of my knowledge. I think the only one that was grandfathered in was the Sona sign. I don't know if there are other conditions, but
Sunoco sign's lit from here. I can see it.
yeah, the Sunoco sign,
Horse complex
I
is
don't know
lit.
what that specific concern is, but again, are you guys going to do something about it so that either A, it allows people to be in compliance, or B, you're enforcing your existing ordinances so that those people, because I am aware of others who wanted to have lighted signs, were forced to turn them off, or were turned down because our ordinance doesn't allow it. They're abiding by the rules and don't have the benefit of a internally illuminated sign. So, you know, you guys said you were going to do something about it 7 months ago, and I'm not aware that you've done anything. Would you seriously consider doing something about that and addressing the inequity of the current conditions? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I believe we said we were going to send it to planning and identify the lighting. Did we do that?
Well, we literally talked tonight about sending them a variety of items, of which one would be signage.
Correct. Okay, so we're
But no, but I don't want to,
we're taking action. We're moving forward.
we discussed doing that tonight. We gave it to the staff to give it tonight, but yes.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any final public comment for the board this evening?
Yes, the Phillies lost 5-2.
Phillies lost, sorry to.
5-2.
Bill McCrane, Worcester. I wanted to make a habit of being up here every June and telling you how successful the Farmers Union activities were earlier in the month with the help of the staff of the township. And I'm lucky to say I can do that again today. We completed the 84th annual Farmers Union Horse Show.
Thank you.
Parade this year, but one of these days.
I remember that parade.
Fantastic, as anybody who holds events. Weather was fantastic, so that's always the key. We had a nice turnout. We had the ladies auxiliary from the fire department out the whole day. They sold their sticky bun fundraiser. It was very nice. Lower Providence Optimists swung by to say hello, which was nice. A couple nonprofits, and a woman from the Penn State Extension, Laura Kenny, I think it is, who is the agricultural liaison, touch base with us during the day. So that went well. Farmers Union also marched in the Memorial Day Parade in Trapp on Memorial Day. And we are sponsors of the Skip Back 5K this coming Saturday morning, and we'll be marching in the Skip Back Township 4th of July Parade. So we're getting back into it.
Good to hear. Good stuff.
It is all good stuff, and we had very much thank the township for their support. The facilities were fantastic, set up for us, and that's such a key to be able to share with the community.
So did you submit your plans to land planning with this facility here? Like you showed us last month, you gave us pretty much big paper on the,
I haven't gotten, as you heard, we have some activities. I haven't gotten with Jay on the whole thing, but we're working on as much as we can.
okay, let's see what you can do.
We're trying.
Fair enough. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any public comment? All right, motion to adjourn. Thank you all for coming and thank you all for staying.